I guess so.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're good. Yeah, you're good.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll hopefully finish up Borrer tonight, not hopefully, but we have to finish up Borrer tonight. I know there were a few shilas that were left over from last week that I was supposed to look into. If I forget to address them, somebody please post that I forgot. I think this will be the last shir for Motzei Shabbos. I think it's getting too. I don't think it's such a great time for a lot of women. It's too close to the end of Shabbos. I think that's what I'm hearing. So we'll have to maybe switch it to a different night. I wish I could figure out exactly which night that would be. I think this week there will be Bez Hashem a Hilchos Pesach shir. I think Wednesday night at 8:00. I don't know if that's too early or too late. So again, I'm not sure exactly what's how to go about finding out what works best. But I guess we're just gonna have to wing it and do it, and then it'll be uploaded. Hopefully this week also we'll have a website that the shiurim will be posted on, not on YouTube, so we don't have any of the, like we discussed, you being putting shiurim on YouTube is not lechatchila. We didn't really have a choice, but now that Baruch Hashem, a few people are helping out and they're getting a website going to have the shiurim on there, so we don't have to worry about any distractions. Okay, but I guess I'll post when exactly. Hopefully, Bez Hashem Wednesday night will be a Hilchos Pesach share. At least the first one, I imagine there'll be a couple, and then we'll have to figure out exactly when to continue this Hilchos Shabbos share or whichever halachas share that we decide. So last week we were finishing off with doing Borrer with a kli. So doing Borrer with a kli, we said, is not allowed. So one of the things that was asked was using your hands as a filter, meaning, so we said that if you want to spill out soup and you want to leave the vegetables and the chicken or whatever it is in the chicken soup, but you want to pour out just the soup, so you would not be able to pour it out. You can pour it out using the lip of the pot, but you can't use the pot cover. For example, you're using this seltzer right here. So if there was vegetables or stuff in here or bones, and I want to tilt it like that, and I want to let out some soup, but then the vegetables start moving down. Right, so it starts moving down. So then what you can do is you can keep going like this and pushing the stuff back, the vegetables go back down and tilting it back, even though essentially you're using this as a utensil, so you're really doing Borrer with utensil, but that the place can say is okay because that's the utensil that it's in, so you're not using any extra utensils. However, to take a pot cover and to cover it and put it there, then to pour like that, then that would be Borrer. So one of the questions asked was, how about if you use your hand? We know that using your hand is not Borrer. Using your hand is not a kli. So, but essentially what you're doing the same thing that a pot cover would be. You're pouring out the soup this way and holding it with your hand, either like this. Then, so it's a machlokes, like almost everything else in Hilchos Borrer and in other halachas. But there are many that are lenient that hold it. You could use your hand. So therefore you would be able to use your hand. And hand for that. If you don't have to, then yeah, okay, it's always better. Like we know in Borrer, anytime or any halachas, but Borrer specifically, because Borrer can actually come onto a daraisa. So therefore, you should try and be machmer if you can. But if it's late and everybody's waiting for the soup to come out and you have no way to filter it out, then you could be samech on that. Okay, so then I saw somebody posted about using sink filters, right? So we had discussed in the beginning, we did it very quickly. We began to discuss it and we did it very quickly, so just review it. What about filters? A common question, using a Brita filter, especially in Eretz Yisrael, where many people filter their water. So we said that there's we said, how do you drain? I'm sorry, yes, so there's a question. Okay, we'll get to the draining tuna in a minute. So there's 3 levels of filtering. There's dirty water that's not drinkable. That's level number 1. Then there's clear water. Level number 2 is clear water that everyone drinks, except for people that are, a little finicky. People that don't, that are little, they want to have everything taste perfectly fine for them. And then you have the 3rd level is water that's most people are going to drink if they didn't have a choice, but they really want it to be filtered, right? So the dirty water that's not drinkable cannot be filtered on Shabbos, and that might even be an Issa Daraisa, right? So it's like legitimate dirty water. Okay, I don't know exactly what situation you'd have with that, but legitimate dirty water, you would not be able to filter on Shabbos, right? Water that's only finicky people would drink, then the person who's finicky and they wouldn't drink it unless it's filtered, then they can't filter it. Basically, the rule is as follows: if you won't drink this water without it being filtered, then you cannot filter it on Shabbos. So a lot of people in Eretz Yisrael, from what I understand, will not drink the water unless it's filtered. So if that's the case, you cannot filter the water on Shabbos. That's even if you see nothing in the water. If you're just filtering it for taste, it wouldn't be allowed, right? And the other case, where if you would drink it, push comes to shove, if you're forced to drink it, then you could drink it. Then it's certainly not a deraisa, it'll be a drabanan. So then you would, if you're desperate, then you would be able to filter it. Okay, so now what's with the bugs in the New York City water? Okay, so first of all, the bugs in the New York City water, almost all places can say it's a problem, but it's only New York City water. It's not anywhere else, as far as I know. Why that is, that's it's just a technical. The laws are grandfathered in New York City, and they're trying to change it, but it's a problem. It's a problem. Meanwhile, still there wasn't. Rabbi Belsky held it was not a problem, but almost everybody else disagreed with him. If you choose to go with Rabbi Belsky's psak, you're certainly entitled to do so, but most don't, right? So, but now the same thing applies. If you wouldn't drink the water at all under any circumstance in New York City, then you can't filter that water on Shabbos. I say lechatchila because there are shitas that hold that it's allowed, which we'll get to in a minute. But lechatchila, you should filter all your water from before Shabbos. That's only though for drinking. Almost all places can hold that using unfiltered water to wash your dishes is okay. Some places can only allow it if you dry your dishes. But almost all allow you to wash dishes, wash hands, brush teeth with unfiltered water. If that's the case, then even if you have a filter on, that would be allowed. Because again, your filtering is not doing anything because you're going to use it anyway. So you don't have to take bottled water for Shabbos to wash netilas yadayim for bread, or wash your dishes, etc., etc. Yeah, you can use filtered water because the filter is not doing anything. There is an opinion that says, okay, so turn on the water to wash the dishes and then leave it on, and then you can use that water for drinking. The Rabbanim that I spoke to about it did not like that mahalach at all. So what's best is if you know that you like drinking water, to filter it before Shabbos, and that would be your most lechatchila, right? But if, let's say, you forgot and now you're stuck and you need to drink water, then there is the shita from the Chai Adam who holds that you are allowed to filter the water on Shabbos. It's complicated why he says it's allowed, but the bottom line is the Chai Adam. We paskin many in the Litvish world. The one we go with is the Chai Adam, and he says that you are allowed to. There's many disagree, but so that's what we're saying. L'chatchila, you should filter the water before Shabbos. But if you didn't and you need the water, then you are allowed to filter the water on Shabbos. Or if it's somebody who's just becoming from, etc., or somebody who's having issues keeping Shabbos and it's getting overwhelming with the filters, etc., then we would be makel for them to filter the water on Shabbos. So again, I just want to reiterate, l'chatchila, we should filter before Shabbos because again, with Borrer, it could be Issa Daraisa, and we try and avoid any of Shilas. But if you're in a desperate situation that you need water and you didn't filter it on Shabbos, you are allowed to filter it on Shabbos. Or if somebody who's just becoming frum, etc., then they 100% can filter the water on Shabbos. If you're eating by somebody's house and they filter the water on Shabbos, you certainly can drink that water. You don't have to avoid drinking that water. Yes, drinking water from the grid from before Shabbos is no problem because it was filtered before Shabbos. If you are going to filter the water on Shabbos, the best way to do it would be do it a little different than you normally would filter it. That always makes things a little bit better. So if you filter it, like if you take a shmata, a cloth, a handkerchief or something, and put it over the faucet, then that would be a better way of filtering it. But again, it depends which type of filter you have. If you have under the sink filters, then that's not an eitzah. But yeah, so that's basically the filtering the water. If there are any questions on that, please ask them now about the filtering. Okay. Now, what about using kalim? See, this I find these halachas very interesting, and at the same time very interesting, very difficult for anybody who never learned the sugyas to understand, and it's difficult for somebody, even for somebody who did learn the sugyas to understand, is when you say when you say that there's butter in certain mixtures, and therefore then it causes you to try and figure out how you can use kalim in order to do butter. For example, when we discussed the soup bones and the vegetables in the soup, right? That when we said you can't turn over the pot and use the pot cover, that's a kli. But that's only if it's a butter mixture. What about draining tuna fish from a can? What about draining pickle juice from a jar of pickles? What about draining a soup, right? So now it depends. If the pieces that you're trying to drain out on Shabbos are very large, then that is not considered butter. If that's the case, you can use a utensil to filter it out because it's not butter, right? Again, we discussed it. I think we discussed it a few times, but it's important to reiterate it. There's a few different levels by butter. If it's not butter at all, then you can do whatever you want. You can take bad from good, good from bad, use a utensil, immediate use, not immediate use, doesn't make a difference because it's not butter. It's only when it becomes butter, then you're also able to separate things. You just have to do it in the halachic way, which means you have to meet the three qualifications, which is with your hands, or a utensil, which is considered an extension of the hand, or it has to be you have to meet all three specifications. You have to do good from bad, no utensil, and it has to be for immediate use, right? So now the question becomes, what's considered a mixture in soup? What's considered a mixture with tuna fish? What's considered a mixture with pickles, etc., etc.? So with soup, if it's large vegetables, and matzah balls, knedalach, that's not a mixture. The place can say that's not a mixture. So therefore, you would be able to put your pot cover and pour the soup out. Same thing with pickles and pickle juice. The place can say that is not a mixture. Therefore, you can turn over the jar of pickles and hold it back with the cover, or do whatever it is that you want. Meaning the pickle. I'm assuming that the pickle juice is what you don't want, so you're removing the bad from the good, but that's okay because the pickles are fine. But if it's very, very small pickles, tiny little pickles, then that would be a problem. Same thing within a soup. Noodles are considered very small. So, and croutons, etc. Those type of things are very small. So therefore, that is considered a mixture. You would not be able to pour it out from the pot of soup because that would be using butter with the kli. Again, if you pour it the way we said, just going back and forth like that, that's okay. But to use the pot cover would not be okay. So what about tuna fish? Tuna fish with the water in the tuna fish. So, and then there's also sardines. So sardines are mixed in with it's considered a mixture. The price can say that to remove sardines, that's a problem. To remove sardines with the juice from the sardines would be considered Borrer. Tuna fish, it's debatable. I don't know exactly what we would say with tuna fish. What I would say to do is, well, what you do is, okay, that's something that we have to discuss also, taking the good from the bad, taking good and bad from the good. So, I just saw somebody said canned corn. Canned corn would definitely be a mixture. It's very small together with the liquid. So that would be a problem to do that. So basically what you would do is tilt it over and see, I don't want to jump. I don't want to jump to another subject. Again, the same problem with butter, that there's so many things intertwined. It's very hard to get things to say them over clear without mixing up in yonim. But okay, so tuna fish with the liquid in the tuna fish, I think it's a mixture. I think it is a mixture. How about fish with the fish juice, like the jars of fish, which I don't think is too popular anymore nowadays. But in the old days, we had those jars of fish with the what's called fish yoch, fish whatever, fish juice and all that. That would not be considered a mixture because they're very large and they're not mixed in. So corn, I would say, is considered a mixture, so you'd have a problem. Tuna fish would be a problem with the liquid. So again, so the way you would do it is you turn it over. You could use your hand like we discussed before. And what you do is you leave some of the liquid. If you would leave some of the liquid in there, so that would also be okay, even though that's not so simple. Yes, you could take the pickles straight out of the jar. That's for sure. That's good from bad. But let's say you just want to serve the jar of pickles, or it's in a tray or something like that, right? Or I'll tell you like that, or something else. And that just reminded me, that was a question that we discussed that we're supposed to look into, the slotted spoon, right? So we said last week using a slotted spoon would be a problem. But using a slotted spoon is only a problem if it's a mixture. If it's not a mixture, it's not a problem, right? So if you wanted to take out pickles, large pickles, using a slotted spoon, it's not Borrer. So therefore it's okay, right? So yes, using a slotted spoon where you have no care whatsoever for removing the liquid would also be okay. Yeah, so that's right. Another way to do the tuna and the corn is the same way we said to remove the soup, is if you turn over the can like this and you're using the edge of the can to hold back and you keep tilting it like that, that would also be okay. And then you, again, in that case, it's not going to be a butter issue because you're going to still end up with some sort of mixture. Okay, so let me just look at some questions here. Okay, going back to the filtered water, is it better to use a bottled water than to rely on the chayadam? Yes, it's better to take a bottle of water. I'm not going to say you have to, but it would be better to take a bottle of water. How do you open a can of tuna fish on Shabbos? That's already a big machlokes. There are many makilim that you could open cans of tuna on Shabbos. The best way to do it, if you're doing it, is what the price can say is, if you want to be yod to all the shitas, you poke a hole in the bottom, and then you only open it halfway. That would be a way. The best way is to open the tuna before Shabbos, just as the halach is to open everything before Shabbos if you can. Okay, but that's a different. I've never actually given a share on opening packages on Shabbos because it's so confusing. I don't even see how anybody can get any sort of clarity on it whatsoever. I don't know, maybe something wrong with me, but I've never been able to get enough clarity to possibly say it over in any sort of clear and definitive way. I don't know if I'm doing a job with Borrer with that either, but it's very technical, because in opening cans and bottles, you can have, like, in situation A, you could have one opinion says it's asur midaraisa, and opinion B would say it's mutar lechatchila, and then you have a situation B, and they switch, and the one that said the other one was asur midaraisa holds this one's mutar lichatchilan. The other one holds it's asr. It's a real it's really confusing. So so somebody just asked, can you wash grapes in a package that has holes in it where the water will drain out? I think we discussed it a couple of weeks ago. That is allowed. Most places can say that that is allowed because that was never a mixture. It's the same thing as we discussed last week with filtering the coffee, right? That it's not, there was never any sort of mixture. When the water is running through, even though the bag is a utensil and the bag has holes in it, and without the bag, you just fill up this, if there would be no holes in the bag, you would just be filling up this big bag with cherries. But the bottom line is there was never any mixture. It's just water running through, running over cherries. So therefore you are allowed to run cherries under the water on Shabbos. Yeah, so now something else. Also now, holding a spoon, I think we discussed that last week too, I'm not sure. Holding a spoon against the wall of the can is also doing borrer with a utensil. That's what most places can say, because that's you, again, when you're using a utensil as an extension of your hand, that's because you're just using the utensil in order not to make your hand dirty, right? If you're using the utensil because it's going to do a better job than your hand, a clear better job than your hand, then that's no good. Then you're not allowed to do that. That's not considered an extension of your hand. So using a spoon like that on the side of a can or on the side of the soup would be a problem, because that is much better. It's going to get a better result than your hand, I think, but maybe not. If you'd have to know the situation yourself and why you would be doing it. Why would you be using a utensil? But that is the basic din with that. Okay, so now I think something that I maybe we touched on it is a solid white tuna. A mixture. The problem is the liquid that's in a mixture with the liquid, it's not the liquid it's not the tuna that's the issue. It's the tuna that's a mixture with the liquid. So it would be, as far as I understand, it would be the same thing. But there's another leniency, which is taking the good from the bad, right? When you're allowed to taking the bad from the good, if you take a little bit of good together with the bad. For example, the classic example that's spoken about is if a fly is in your drink. So I think nowadays the reason why this example doesn't apply is because everybody just throws out that whole bowl. But for those that are gutsy and decide that they're going to have it, that's usually males that would do that. So what you do, the person say to do, is you take a spoon and you take out a little bit of the fly. You take out the whole fly with a little bit of liquid, right? And then that's not taking bad from good. That's taking bad and good from good. Therefore, it's that's not considered borrer. Again, the lumdus behind that is that borrer is bad and good. Bad, taking bad from good. Taking bad and good from bad is or the opposite isn't really not a problem. Okay, so basically, when you want to take out the fly, you take out a little. You're taking the bad and the good from the good. That's okay, right? When you want to take the skin off the chicken, you take off a little bit of skin you take a little bit of chicken with the skin. That's also fine. Yes. So okay. Well, I'll get to the questions in a minute, but so that's basically that. So now the question is, what about the other way around? Unless you really understand how to do it properly, it's probably best not to do it, which is you're removing the bad from the good, but you're leaving a mixture of bad and good together, right? Meaning what we're saying by taking the good and the bad together is that you take some of the fly together with some soup. So you're not really taking bad from good. You're taking good and bad from good. So that's not borrer. So what happens if you take bad from good, but you leave some bad together with the good? So that's also okay, but that really only works with liquids. The most classic example of that is, I don't know if anybody's familiar with French press coffee, right? Again, I don't drink coffee, so I'm just, but I've seen many people have showed it to me. So basically what it is you have a cup, and I don't know, I guess you put the coffee in the bottom, and then you push down with the press, and that presses the coffee, and now you want to do is you want to pour it out. So what the Paz can say is that you can pour out the coffee, and as long as you're leaving a little bit of mixture back, so then you haven't fixed anything, because there's still a mixture of bad and good. So that can be relied on if you know exactly, if that's exactly how it's going to end up being, then that would be fine, right? But that's again, it's something that we use a lot, is to take the good together with the bad, take some good together with the bad, and then you're okay. Same thing with if you have part of an apple that's rotten. So to just take out the rotten part is considered taking bad from good. But you take out a little bit of apple together with it, then that's taking good and bad, and then you're fine. Yeah. Okay. So with the filter on Shabbos, I think I discussed that. Although there are opinions that say if you let the water run for 20 seconds, and then you can use it. That comes from what we're saying, that you're allowed to remove some, as long as you're leaving some mixture together, then you're not really fixing something, or you're taking good together with bad. So then when you're doing is you're letting the water run. So you started the Borrer process, but you didn't care about Borrer. So then once the Borrer process started, then you're just adding something into there to take it. But it's based on a Chazon Ish. I discussed it with Rabbi Cohen, and he was not pro that. So, but there are Rabbanim that say it. I personally don't go with that. However, there are, like we said, the Chai Adam says you're even allowed to filter water on Shabbos. So we do rely on that in certain circumstances. So it's certainly not going to hurt to let the water run for a few seconds. If you're taking bad with a little bit of good, you do not need the biyad and miyad. No, because it's not Borrer. That's an excellent question. Thank you for pointing that out. If it's not Borrer, if you're taking good together with bad, then that's not Borrer. So then you can do it even for later on, which we're going to get to, and it's certainly not. That doesn't fall into the category of bad from good, and then you can use a utensil for that too. And then if you take some good with the bad, can you then take I don't know what you mean, take the good back afterwards? I think what you mean is, can you put the good back in? If that's what's meant, if that's what you mean, then that's actually better. You should put the good back in if you can. That actually makes it better. But I don't want to get into that because it's getting late and we still have more to discuss. Using the filter, just quickly to review the filter on Shabbos, is that as long as the coffee is in the filter and then you pour the water over it, it was never a mixture. It was water before, it's water after. You ran it through a filter with some coffee in it, and therefore there was never a mixture. So you're allowed to do that on Shabbos. Where there's a problem is if you have coffee, like here, let's assume this is a coffee, and you have coffee floating around in that you want to filter out, that you can't pour through a filter, because right here it's a mixture. When you pour it through a filter, it's getting rid of the mixture. But when, assuming my hand is the filter and there's coffee in the filter, then you take water and pour it over it, and then it comes out. Coffee is just essentially flavored water. It was never a mixture. So that's the way you can do it. So many poskim, allow French presses if at the bottom there's a mixture of good and bad. There's many that to rely on that. We've been discussing any type of sink filter, whether it's under sink, over the sink. Excuse me for taking a drink, I'm sorry. Fine. Okay, so that's the good from the bad. Now, last subject, which I think we started discussing, but we have to finish, is the immediate use. It's very vague, and I find that it's the one area where many make mistakes, because we forget that one of the requirements is that you need to use it immediately, right? So like we discussed, taking clothing out Friday night for Shabbos day is a problem if it would be a mixture. If it's not a mixture, it's not a problem. But if it would be a mixture, it's a problem taking out clothing Friday night for Shabbos day, because that's not immediate use. So mostly it's for meal preparation, right? Can you start preparing a meal that entails Borrer from before you go to shul, let's say, and then you want to go to shul? That's not allowed, because that is not for immediate use. Again, that's assuming that you're doing Borrer. There's nothing wrong with preparing a meal before a meal if there's no Borrer that it entails. But setting the table could entail Borrer. Making vegetables can entail Borrer, etc. Making salads, whatever it is. So if it does entail Borrer, then it has to be done only for immediate use. The closer to the meal, the better. If you're making a large meal and therefore you need a long time to do it, then that's okay. Also, if you're preparing dessert, right, and you want to start preparing an hour before your meal, but you want to prepare the dessert, but the dessert won't be eaten for a bunch of hours, that's still okay, because you are, that's all considered one part of the meal, and that's considered immediately before the meal. All right. Same thing with marinating. Let's say you wanna take pickles out of one mixture and put it into another mixture. I don't know, whichever. Use your imagination. But if you need to marinate things for before the meal to make a salad, that would also be considered immediate use, because you need to. That's the way you need to do it. That's the proper preparation for a meal. Soda. Let's say picking out a soda. So we said that can be Borrer. So different soda bottles. You have orange soda, Coca-Cola, this and that, and you want to take a few out. So you'd have to take the good from the bad, the soda that you want, but you're putting it into the freezer now or the refrigerator, and you're not going to be using it for 4 or 5 hours. That's considered immediate use, because that's the way to get it cold for the meal, is by putting it in for 4 or 5 hours, or whatever amount of hours it is that you're doing it. Right, there is a shear, so people want to know, okay, give me an hour, give me a time. So the maximum that I've seen is 3 hours. 3 hours, it shouldn't be done more than 3 hours before. Okay. Oh yeah, peeler. Oh, that's good. Yeah. I forgot to discuss the peeler. Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry. Let's cut back. Okay. So those are the basics of immediate use. Now let's just get back to the peeler for a minute. I apologize. So using a peeler is a big disagreement amongst the poskim. That's why you'll have some friends that heard from their Rav that they use a peeler on Shabbos to peel vegetables, and then you all hear from other people that their Rav said not. Yes, that's one of the classic machloksim of Hilchos Borrer. It depends on how you look at a peeler. Is a peeler looked at a knife? If you look at a peeler like it's just a fancy knife, then we said it. A knife is considered an extension of your hand, and therefore that's not considered Borrer with a kli. But if you say no, a peeler makes it a lot easier to peel, then that's not considered as an extension of your hand, because it's actually enhancing your a knife is also going to enhance it, but a peeler is going to really enhance it and make it extremely easy. So that's the machlokes about the peeler. What I tell people to do is, like we've been discussing throughout Borrer, if you can avoid the shaila, so then why should you get into it? So the best way to avoid the shaila is to take a little bit, like we just discussed, take a little bit of the vegetable off with the peel, and then that's not Borrer, because you're taking a little good together with the bad, right? So that basically, let's take a cucumber for example. So when you're peeling the cucumber, so this peel you don't like, right? You're trying to get rid of it, but if you take the peel off with a little bit of the vegetable, right? Which if I was peeling cucumbers, I'd probably end up, I mean, I know when I peel cucumbers, I end up removing most of the vegetable anyways, which is why I don't usually peel vegetables, right? But if I imagine most are a little bit more tichtig than I am, so they can just get off just the skin or the peel. So in one of the peels, what you do is you take off a little bit of the vegetable, and then you're taking good and bad from good, which is going to be okay, and then you don't have any issues, right? Okay, so that's that with the peeler. Yes, is preparing before shul considered immediate use? That is not immediate use. That is a problem, because immediate use means when you're getting ready to benefit from the separating. That's called immediate use. Now, if you live near a shul and you're in the middle of preparing your meal and you want to run outside and go, let's say on a Yom Tif and run and get duchening at the end of davening, you run out for a few minutes, but that you're still essentially preparing your meal, that's fine. But get up at 8 o'clock in the morning to prepare your meal, and then you want to go to shul for 2-3 hours, that is not immediate use, and that would be a problem. But again, I want to reiterate, that's only if you're doing Borrer. If you're not doing Borrer, then you could do it, right? So let's say, again, I'm just doing basic examples, but and I'm not exactly I'm a cook, so I can't. I imagine somebody wants to post better, excuse me, better examples than I'm saying. But let's say you wanted to take the pickles, right? We said pickles and pickle juice is not a mixture, so that you can prepare before the meal, before going to davening, because it's not Borrer. If it's not Borrer, it's a non-issue. It's only if you're doing Borrer. So like setting the table could potentially be Borrer, like we discussed. So if it would be a scenario of that, then of Borrer, then you would not be able to set the table before going to shul, which can be extremely frustrating, because you want to, people come home from shul and they want to start the meal. You first have to start setting the table, etc., etc. So that's a problem. But again, if you're just running out, you're really preparing the meal, you just run out to shul for 5-10 minutes or whatever it is, then that would be considered fine. It's just if you're going to shul for a long time, then that's not considered immediate immediate use. Okay. Now, there's a big leniency with immediate use. I'm not sure if we discussed. I don't think we discussed it. Some say, okay. Now, we try not to paskin like this opinion, but it's important to know this opinion, because you can be in tight situations where you don't really have time, like let's say going to shul, and you're not going to be able to separate things. So, but you're not going to be able to get it all done when you come back from shul. So this is something that can be relied upon in certain situations. So this, we said that you have to remove you need to have the 3 qualifications, right? Again, good from bad. No, you can't use a utensil, and it has to be for immediate use. Some say the immediate use is only when you're removing something bad, something good from bad. For example, you want to debone the chicken. So you can take the chicken away from the bone. That's fine. That's good from bad. You can even use a fork and a knife, but it has to be for immediate use, right? But that's legitimate good from bad. What happens if you're taking good from good, right? So now good from good is really not Borrer. But we did say that if you don't like one of the items, then that is considered good from bad, even though both are theoretically good. For example, we said jelly beans, right? So if you don't like the black jelly bean color, right, that just seems to be the popular color people don't like. So you want to remove the black jelly bean from the mixture, you're not allowed to, because that's bad from good. But you want to take all the other jelly beans away from the black, that's taking good from bad, that's fine. But really, that's not good from bad. That's really good from good. It's just because you don't like black jelly beans, therefore it's Borrer for you, right? We also discussed that if you want to remove the black ones for your friend who likes black jelly beans, excuse me, then you could rely on doing that's considered good from good, or even good from bad, because you're doing it on behalf of your friend, which we said is okay. But there's a leniency that when it's really both are good, you just don't like one of them, or you don't want it right now, then you can do that, and it does not have to be done for immediate use. For example, you have a fruit salad, or you just have cut up fruit all mixed up together, and then you decide that for dessert, for your meal, you want to separate the watermelon from the cantaloupe from the pineapple. Right now, that's Borrer, because you're trying to separate. Right? There's certain ones that you want, certain ones that you don't want. So that's considered Borrer. But that's good from good, because you have no problem with with these things. It's not bad. You just want to have each fruit separate from each other. So some poskim say that does not need to meet the immediate use issue. You can't do it with a utensil, and you can't take the bad from the good. You still have to take the good from the bad, but it does not have to be done for immediate use. I hope I'm being clear. I don't know how practical the scenario is, but this shita, this opinion can be relied on if you're really stuck. And then once in a while, if you really need to do this before the meal, then it's okay, right? But one time that this can be relied on is if you're going to use both fruits during the meal. You know you're going to do it. So let's say, for example, okay, I hope I'm using okay examples, but if anybody wants to post an example and ask about it, then that would be great. But let's say you have fruit mixed up together and you want to use some, let's say the lemons you want to serve with the fish, right? So you have a mixture, let's say, of lemons and grapefruits, let's say, and you want to serve the grapefruits for dessert and the lemons with the fish. So that's considered good from good. There, in almost all opinions, would say that can be done way before the meal, and that would be okay, because you're going to end up using both during the meal, right? The previous opinion that we said was that you're removing good from good, but that's where you don't really plan on using it one of them. You don't plan on using during the meal, but it could be in the afternoon you'll end up using it. But here, where you're going to end up using both during the meal, then in that situation, you certainly can rely on the opinion that says that it's that the immediate use doesn't apply, and that the immediate use requirement doesn't apply. Okay. Right. So then some would say that for the cut, you would be able to rely on this in certain situations for the cutlery, because you're going to really want both. But again, we try not to rely on that lechatchila. If you're stuck in a jam, then you would be able to set the table that way. We already said, just to chazer, we already said there is a way. If you have a borrer by utensils, what you can do is you throw them down onto the table, drop them down onto the table, and then they separate from each other. Then it's no longer borrer. There are many poskim that say that you, again, just to say, you take the forks and the knives and spoons, they're all in one pile, so it's borrer. You drop them onto the table, they splatter all over the place. They're no longer a mixture. Now you can take them and you could put them out. Yeah. If you're just not in the mood of one now, then that would be, it's still considered borrer. If you have melons and right now you don't want one particular one, then that is considered borrer. So you would still have to take the good from the bad. But this leniency that we've been discussing, then that would apply. Okay, it's getting a little late. I hope that was clear. It's a little confusing, but I'm just trying to find ways to try and make it a little easier to prepare the meals earlier. There's another eitzah for using. You can use something immediately, and then you're fine, even though most of it doesn't get used immediately. For example, if you want to peel vegetables, right, or peel fruits, and you want to peel them in the morning, and they're not going to be used till Shabbos afternoon, or you want to peel them before going to shul. So we said that's borrer, right? Orange peel or apple peels is considered borrer. So it has to be. And what we said, though, even though you're taking the bad from the good, since that's the regular way of eating, so taking the peel off from the orange is fine, right? But it has to be for immediate use. So we said you're not allowed to do this unless it's immediately before the meal. So, but the easy way to do it is if you peel an orange and you take a little bit of the orange and eat it. So now that was immediate use. Even though most of the orange you're leaving for later, that's called benefiting it from immediate use. It's the same thing would be if you're cleaning books or cleaning svarim, and you want to put them away now for later. So then you look in the sefer and you read a couple of sentences in the book. But you have to be honest. You have to be honest about it. See, it won't work if you're cutting up a big salad, a fruit salad, and you're going to peel multiple oranges, and you're going to take one bite out of each orange. That doesn't work, because if you really wanted that much orange, right? If you really want that much orange, then you should have just eaten one orange, right? Just peeling 10 oranges and taking one bite of each orange, that's no good. That's not into being intellectually honest about it. So that wouldn't work. Same thing as if Friday night you want to take out your clothing for Shabbos morning. So there's an eitzah. Wear it Friday night, right? But to wear it for 5 seconds, let's say socks. You want to take out socks from the drawer, you give it to the kids and tell the kids to put on the socks for 5 seconds and then take it off. That's not good. The eitzah would be is tell the kids to put on the socks before they go, before they go to the bathroom and wash up before they go to sleep. Then that would be okay, because they actually got some use out of wearing the socks. And they take them off and tell them to put it on the side. That would be okay. But just telling them to put it on for a second or two is no good, right? But that is a way to be able to use something immediate. So that's a way. That's a way around it. Okay. So let's see some questions. Oh, so putting. Let me see. Yeah, so putting the strainer piece into the sink, we said is okay. That's not considered butter, because it's not considered a mixture. So you would be able to pick up the you want to let me see, what are you saying? Yeah, to stop it is okay, because you're not doing anything. You're not doing any action with that. So you can use the stopper, not stopper. What do you call it? The whatever you call it, whatever, the strainer. Yeah. Okay. Putting pictures into an album on Shabbos is a very common question. So putting pictures into an album on Shabbos is, you certainly can't go sort through and take out the bad pictures, right? Because that's taking the bad from the good. But if you take the good from the bad and you're using your hands, that's okay. But you need to do it for immediate use. So the eitzah is that after you put the pictures into the album, then you look through the album, and looking through the album is considered immediate use. But to just put them into the album and then not look at it, then that would be a problem, right? Yeah. So if the kids want cantaloupe and others want honeydew, but the one serving likes both, is it butter? Then it would not be butter. That would be okay. So the problem is cleaning up kids' toys. That's a big problem, because to clean up the kids' toys on Shabbos afternoon, and they're not going to be playing with it again. So you take, let's say, Monopoly, and you put the Monopoly pieces, each one into its own section, is a problem. That's a problem for later use. I don't know exactly. I don't know a practical way around it. The most practical way around it is tell the kids to start playing again, and then make them stop after 5 minutes. I don't know if that's a nice thing to do to them, but tell them to clean it up. And now you cleaned it up. Okay, let's play again. And then after a few minutes, before they make a mess again, so then that would be okay. Or if somehow you can figure out a way to play a game where immediately you want them to be separated, then that would be okay. I'm not sure any other way how to get around this. Yeah, so organizing the pictures would be okay, as long as you're taking the good from the bad, etc. You can't take the bads from the good, and it has to be for immediate use, right? So if you're going through the pictures and you're separating, oh, this is no good, that's no good, then that's a problem, right? Or unless you take all the pictures and throw them on the floor and let them go all over the room, which for some reason I think you would not do. But if you would do that, then that would also be an eitzah. So here's something. There is another heter for the immediate use, but again, you have to be very intellectually honest with this, right? And that is, if you really enjoy the table, let's say setting the table, if you really legitimately enjoy looking at a table that's set, Let's say Friday night, you're sitting on the couch and you want to look up and see a set table for Shabbos day. If that legitimately gives you happiness, then that would be okay. It would be okay to set the table. I don't know how you can tell whether you're legitimately happy with that. I imagine if you do it every Friday night, then excuse me, then that would be okay. But if just one week you decide to be inspired that you want to see a set table, that's a problem. If you have a friend over Friday night and you're going to be serving the next day on, you're going to be setting the table and you're trying to describe to your friend how you're going to set the table. But so then you say, hey, why don't I just set the table for right now for tomorrow, and then you'll be able to see it. I don't know how common that scenario would be. That would be okay, because right then and there you're getting a direct benefit from being able to show your friend how you're setting the table, right? So it's a little unclear exactly when you say these cases of having a personal benefit from it. For example, and this sounds like a little strange, but let's say you're walking in the street and you see a pile of garbage and then there's some svarim in the garbage, or you see some food, or you drop your candy. A kid drops his candy in the dirt, and he's on his way out to go for a walk for an hour or two. He wasn't planning on using that candy. He was planning on bringing that candy to a friend's house or something like that. Well, let's stick with the svarim. So you see a svarim in a pile of garbage on the floor. So it's Borrer to take out that sefer from the garbage. That's Borrer. So you have to use it for immediate use in order to get. Meaning, you would think, well, it's really causing me pain to see a sefer in the garbage. So I'm getting an instant gratification, even though I'll pull out the sefer. Somebody's not going to use the sefer for hours and hours, but I'm getting instant gratification by taking out the sefer. That's not so clear that that's called an instant gratification enough. That would be enough to allow it. So the eitzah is simple, is you just learn from the sefer. But let's say the kid you drop all your fruit on the floor, right? And it gets full of dirt. So we discussed that that's butter. Last week, I think we discussed that would be butter to wash the fruit. But now you're going out to shul. You weren't planning on serving that fruit. So now, but it's making you nervous. It's about tashchis. The fruit's going to get ruined. So can you wash for that or not wash it? That's a little bit of a problem, because you're not getting any. It's not necessarily enough of a gratification to allow that to be done. So again, the best states would be to eat some of the fruit, wash it all together, and then eat some of the fruit. But it would depend what type of fruit. So again, this kula has to be used in the proper way. But again, if it's going to give you immediate satisfaction, then that would be okay, even though most of your satisfaction is not going to come until later. So can you pick up one toy at a time and put it away? It's really not preferred to do that. The best thing to do would be to pick up one toy, play with it for a few seconds. I don't know if that works for an adult, but you can ask the kids to say, okay, take this toy, play with it for a few seconds, and then put it away. That would be the best way of doing it. So having a clean floor, or let's say you're having guests come over and you're going to be embarrassed because the house is a mess. So then that would be considered immediate use, because you're getting immediate benefit from putting it away. The only question is, like, if you want to clean it like a male, which would be not to separate all the toys, you just put them all in one pile and just put it into the closet and close the closet door, right? So maybe you can do that without separating it. But if that would be the regular derech of putting things away, and you're doing it because you need the house to be clean, then I would say that is considered immediate use. Is it better to put out place cards that were in a pile? Yes, that would be better, especially if you're putting one on one table, one on another table. That would have to be, take the ones that you need and do it before, as close as possible to when you're gonna need them. Okay, I think that's so another scenario not for immediate use is well, there's a couple. You go to a kiddush, right? And you decide that you want to take some cake home for Shabbos afternoon. So even if you go to the tray of cake and let's say there's a brownie, and there's a brownie together with the sponge cake, which nobody ever eats, right? I think the sponge cake by Kiddushin must be plastic, and they just put it there and they use the same ones. But okay, but you want to take the brownie from the sponge cake. So you're taking the good from the bad, that's fine. You're using your hand, which is also fine, but it has to be for immediate use. But now you're taking it, you're putting it into your pocket or into a stroller or whatever it is, and you're not going to end up eating it till the afternoon. That's Borrer. Most poskim say that that's Borrer. So that's a problem. So the eitzah for that would be is to take a bite out of the brownie, but to do it for multiple brownies, we said that doesn't work. That's one thing. Same thing with people go to Shalom Zachars and they bring home candies. If it's not in a mixture, then that's fine. But if it was part of a mixture, then taking it home from a Shalom Zachar to eat the next day is not immediate use. Like there are those that are lenient because they say, no, it is considered immediate use because right now I want to take this home, and if I'm not able to take this home, then that's an immediate gratification by being able to take it home. But not everybody agrees to that. So either take food that's not in a mixture, or eat from some of it. Also, if you find this happens, if you roll up the plastic tablecloth, and then you look as you're about to throw the tablecloth into the garbage, you see that you left a fork there or a spoon or something. So you want to get it out of there. That's Borrer, because that's one big mixture. So again, you're going to open the tablecloth and you're going to reach for the thing that you want, which is good from bad, which is great. But what are you doing with that fork? You're not going to be using this fork till you wash the dishes for hours and hours later. So you don't have, that's not immediate use. So again, the eitzah for that would be is to take out the fork, spoon, or whatever it is, and wash it and then use it. Then that would be for immediate use. But if you don't do that, then you're over on Borrer, right? So again, I find that these are the scenarios where people forget easily that they have to. One of the requirements of Borrer is to use something for immediate use. A variety of cakes on a plate is a mixture. Again, we said like the Aruch HaShulchan, the way to judge whether something is a mixture is how would you describe it to somebody if you're trying to describe it. If you'd say, oh, there's a cake, there's a mixture of cake on a tray, then that would be considered a mixture. If you look at it and you say, oh, that's not a mixture, that's each one is separate and it's very clear that they're not a mixture, then it's not a mixture. It's really up to your judgment whether that would be considered a mixture. I would think that if it's separate rows of cake, then it's very possible that that's not a mixture. Nobody would say you can easily get to one cake without touching or moving the other cakes. But as a kiddush or a shalom zachar goes on, all those cakes manage to get mixed up. Then that's for sure a mixture. But if they're each one in its own row, which is I think the way they get served, then I would say that could very well not be a mixture. But again, it depends on how it looks. But that's the way Aruch HaShulchan says, is when you look at it, if it looks like a mixture to you, then it's a mixture. If it doesn't look like a mixture to you, then it's not a mixture. A candy platter on different compartments is not Borrer. That's clearly differentiated, and it's not Borrer. Okay, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Okay, I'm not sure if we'll have shir next month to Shabbos. We'll try. I hope as Hashem again Wednesday to have a Hilchos Pesach shir. I'm not sure it's certainly after next month to Shabbos we will not be having shir because they're changing the clocks next week. So after that it's going to certainly be way too late. Plus with the other shirim I have to give. So that's not going to work. So we'll just have to figure out a way to get on the same page when and if to continue this. Okay, one other question here. I believe if you're cleaning up the toys and you have a heter to clean them up because you need the house to look neat, and there's something you need it for immediate use, then you could put it back in its proper place. That would be allowed. Okay, a good fach and a good yar, and everybody should be matzliach.